If he was not your GOAT already, he might be now, as LeBron James has risen to the defense of Joel Embiid and the unfair treatment that he has kind of gotten in the media in recent days regarding his health status, playing through injuries, and the overall just discourse surrounding this guy. I want to break down what LeBron said, how valid it is, point out some examples, as well as maybe read the tea leaves on if there could be a LeBron James to Philadelphia reunion, not reunion, a LeBron James to Philadelphia arrival, as has been speculated on all the way since 2018. So to get right into it, let's talk about these LeBron comments. LeBron today tweeting out, "Where are all the media outlets, TV personalities, hot takes that talk so much shit about Joel Embiid about missing those games when he knew what he was dealing with? Now he's out with an injury because of it. Not one person has went back on TV or their dumbass podcast and apologized to that man. No accountability," with the 3 trash can emojis. Now, we do know how LeBron uses Twitter, that he does like to stir the pot a little bit. We saw the timer emoji that he tweeted out that many are reading into. But this was a direct shot at plenty of people, and he's absolutely right about it. That I do think that Joel Embiid, more so than any player in the NBA or really across any professional sport, is pinned into this corner of this lose-lose scenario where if he does not play, he's called soft. He's called all these things. He's accused of ducking games. But if he does play, it's this selfish outlook of people acting like, well, he's only trying to get to the 65-game margin to win MVP, or he just wants to get in the All-NBA team or get these individual accolades, which is just straight up unfair to him. And specifically, with him dealing with these injuries, and no one knows his body like Joel, it's really frustrating to see that be the public mindset. Now, to bring up a specific example and call him right out is Kendrick Perkins. That to talk about Perkins, there's two quotes three quotes really that I'm bring out. The first one he tweeted out today, and the others from beforehand. So I personally tweeted that the Kendrick Perkins switch up from being one of the biggest critics of Embiid not playing in Denver to now talking like this is embarrassing. The dude said word for word leading up to the game, quote, "Your big ass better suit up, you better suit up, and you better stand on business." Perkins also took to his own individual Twitter account to tweet, "Embiid hasn't played in Denver since 2019. Come on now, big fella, at Joel Embiid. Stop ducking that smoke and stand on business today. Carry the hell on." Now, Perkins hops on ESPN today and says, quote, "Sometimes it's okay to be selfish and take care of you, right? We all want to see Joel Embiid on the floor. I want to see him as a former center. I want to see the guy do big things." Look, for the most part, the conversation, like I get where you're coming from here, but just like the poor taste and the switch up is just straight up wrong. Like Kendrick Perkins, you should stand on business here. You're the one who said something that was completely wrong, played a role in putting this guy in harm's way, as there are reports that Joel Embiid is motivated to kind of squash this narrative that he does hear the outside noise. Now, I do want to interject here and say that that should not play a role in the decision-making process whatsoever. And me personally, I'm pointing the finger directly at the Sixers organization for being responsible for a great deal of that. Now, I can speak to kind of the process for Joel Embiid being cleared for a game or whether or not he's going to play. One of the reasons that it is so frustrating for Joel Embiid specifically is because he's never 100%, that he's constantly dealing with these types of knee issues, these lingering things, and they are issues that he just has to learn to manage. These aren't things that aren't going to go away throughout his career, that his body, to an extent, has let him down, that when you're 7'2", 285 pounds, there are issues that you are going to have that the average human being and basketball player does not have to deal with. Now, for Joel's specific process of being cleared for a game, that he goes through his warm-up routine. He's the last man out to the floor. It happens a little less than a half hour before. He goes through a little shooting routine, sees how he moves, works out the knee, and then it's a collaborative decision between both Joel Embiid and the trainers, with Joel ultimately having the final say in whether or not he plays. Now, he's gotten criticism for the games that he has not played because he is the guy that has final say, and that is pretty rare from a player standpoint to have that type of power. There's a ton of unique circumstances, and this has been this way for Joel's entire career. And now, at that point, we're talking 3 general managers ago, 2 head coaches ago, 150 teammates ago, that Joel Embiid has been the rock of this franchise and really established his own culture, which is a good and a bad thing here. But for that specific situation, I personally think it is the organization's responsibility to prevent this guy from making poor decisions, that the trainers should be having more say than anyone on how he does truly look. And the unfortunate reality is there likely may never be a game where Joel Embiid is 100% ready. And that is the case for a lot of the NBA, that all these guys have knocks and bruises and injuries that they're fighting through. But for Joel specifically, there are some chronic issues within him that he's dealing with and is just learning to manage. And that is the real shame of it. And frankly, I think should be praised the fact that he does fight through it the way he does, not looked down upon the way it often gets portrayed in the media. That LeBron is absolutely right to call out this double standard and really forcing him into a harmful situation in a way where he just straight up shouldn't. And once again, I point my finger directly at the Sixers organization for not being the adult in the room, making the long-term decision for the franchise, and, by the way, setting up to look for complete failure by not even listing him on the injury report in the game that he did not play. Now, I did want to bring up that I do think it's interesting that LeBron is making these comments, that the life does not look too cushy out there in Los Angeles, with the Lakers playing some really poor basketball of late, slipping down the standings. Now, we know this is the same team that won the in-season tournament this year, that has won a championship in the recent future, that we know anytime you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis that you have a chance to contend. But I really don't think that team is it this year. That I don't think that team realistically has any chance of competing for a championship. And you have to wonder if that little timer emoji had to indicate that that LeBron James was thinking something similar. Now, we got this report yesterday, has been shot down pretty strongly, but from David Pingalore tweeting that hearing from NBA peeps that King James is at the top of the Lakers list to trade the 39-year-old. Pelinka is looking to do right. Is looking for the right team to dance and is close to a suitor. LBJ and AD both out tonight. So neither LeBron or AD did play last night. The Lakers did beat the Celtics in a pretty impressive victory, considering they were 15-point underdogs in the matchup, and the Celtics had their full starting five. But it does make the tinfoil hats come on, and people begin to wonder. And that also does bring this conversation right here to Philadelphia, that there has been some whispers connecting LeBron and Philadelphia for quite some time. That back in 2018, there were these hanging over the Philadelphia highways saying hashtag Philly wants LeBron and hashtag complete the process. Now, at that point in time, there was that obvious connection between Ben Simmons and LeBron James. Many people calling Ben Simmons the next LeBron James, that, LeBron taking him under his wing a little bit, having the same representation with Clutch Sports, and really like a ton of similarities. They train together, all these things. Now, clearly that has not worked out for Ben Simmons, but the Sixers do have a nice young and up-and-coming guard who has very similar relations with LeBron James. That Tyrese Maxey has trained with LeBron. Shout out to Chris Johnson Hoops for getting in the lab with both these guys this summer. They also both share Clutch Sports as their representation from an agency standpoint. But I will speak to that Rich Paul did put a stop to this, and that he did jump in and say that there will be no LeBron James trade this year. Now, whatever's posturing, whatever isn't, I think more likely than not that the Lakers will be ending the season with LeBron James in uniform. But you do have to think that depending on how deeply rooted these frustrations are, there has to be some consideration to do right by the guy. And when you are making a LeBron James trade, trading a player of his caliber with his type of legacy, you're never going to quote-unquote win the deal. Like, it's going to be one of those deals where you're doing right by a guy, where you're sending him to a contender to allow him to have a chance. Because when you have LeBron James and you are LeBron James, you should want to compete year in and year out. That even at the incredibly high level he is still playing at, he's 39 years old and Father Time is still undefeated. With all the chatter about him wanting to play with Bronny James when he arrives in the league, LeBron set to be a free agent this year or have the player option that he could become a free agent, that this does set the stage for maybe they're making some sense for the Lakers wanting to move on and do right by the guy. I do think Philadelphia is one of the rare situations where it's the perfect balance of a win-now team that needs help. LeBron would be the type of player to help this team navigate the time without Joel Embiid and ultimately be a true contender. Like, just picture what an upgrade when you go from Tobias Harris to LeBron James, which is likely somewhat in the ballpark of what I would see the money work. These Sixers do have draft picks. Now, I am talking a little bit in circles that I don't think this is the most likely thing in the world. But I do think it's something that we should tuck away. But the bottom line that I did want to circle back to here is I do think it's very cool that LeBron James is the guy speaking up for Joel Embiid. That if there is going to be change within this culture of media, culture within the NBA, the coverage of the NBA, it will take a guy like LeBron James to be the face to do it. And same thing with these 65-game rules, which have pretty much unanimously been hated on by all the active players. Paul George, Pat Bev, a ton of guys publicly making comments about how unsafe it is. I think a better example would be what's going on with Tyrese Halliburton, who has played just over 20 minutes to make sure he gets that number in the past 2 games. Clearly does not look healthy by my eyes and dealing with a hamstring injury that kept him out double-digit games, and that he's just trying to get to that number. The reason for that being that Tyrese Halliburton's still on track to be an All-NBA player this season, and if he does hit that number, that's a $40 million difference in his pockets, so you get it from his perspective. I understand the implications, but it's also just encouraging some unsafe decisions, and these are further being encouraged in the media sphere. So ultimately, we're still praying for some good news on Joel Embiid. We're praying that he does have a chance to return for a playoff run. I do admire LeBron James for speaking up and kind of calling this to his attention, or calling this to the league's attention, putting everybody on full blast. And he's absolutely right that from start to finish, the conversations regarding Joel Embiid, regarding his injuries, the status of whether or not he played, have been flat out disrespectful, ignorant, and just really leaving a sour taste in my mouth, and has to be the same way for players and people around the league elsewhere. So hopefully this is the first step towards squashing this type of culture. Hopefully people do have a little hard look in the mirror that Joel Embiid's still a human being, still has some real deal issues, and it's more complicated than a lot of people are making it seem. He's not ducking anybody. He does have some tough knee and body issues that he is fighting through, and he should be praised and encouraged from that rather than looked at as weak or criticized in the way that is currently the case. So shout out to LeBron for calling to the attention, making those comments, and taking to his platform. Shout out to you guys for all tuning into this video and watching Sixers Digest as a whole. Make sure you're smashing the subscribe to this channel. We want to get over that 3,000 mark as soon as possible. Got a ton of content coming out, set down the pipeline. Big week coming up as NBA trade deadline is almost here. Appreciate all you guys once again. Don't forget to smash that subscribe, hit that like, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.